So what is Ice and Water Shield? How does it work? Where is it required to get installed on your house? These are all common questions that we get from homeowners, so we want to take a couple minutes and answer them. Ice and Water Shield is a membrane barrier, thin membrane barrier, as you can see here. It has a very granular surface on one side, sandy, kind of like sandpaper. If you were to texture-wise, it's very sandpaper in feel. The opposing side of it, however, has a release film and is an asphalt-based product, very tacky to the touch. And it is designed to be installed by code again on your home, on the eaves and in the valleys where two roofs come together and form kind of a valley. This is where two roofs come together. This is the valley, but it's required to be installed in those particular areas. And the reason for it is to actually help prevent what's called ice damming and damage from ice buildup or snow buildup. And these areas are typically where this occurs is going to be the eaves of your home as well as the valleys. Now let me explain a little bit more. Ice and Water Shield down at the eaves, it must extend past the warm wall. So what is the warm wall? So here we're out in my garage in my backyard. But if this is the exterior wall of my home, this is the warm wall. Why? Because in this wall is insulation. But beyond this wall, or beyond this wall, as you can see here, is the roof extends further. Okay, and what happens is in your home, as you're, whether in the winter time, as you're cooking, cleaning, showering, you have your heat on, that heat will escape into the attic space. And realistically, we want to have ventilation that will help solve for this problem, good ventilation. You want to have great insulation to help prevent a lot of that heat from escaping into the attic. But nonetheless, it is going to happen. So fast forward, it's snowing or hailing, sleeting, whatever the case may be, snowing. This is going to sit on the roof, right? As the heat builds up into your attic, it's going to warm the attic space. Now, it doesn't need to warm it to 60 degrees, right? It's going to warm it even if it does above freezing. Now, what's going to happen is the snow that's sitting on the roof deck is going to melt. And when it melts, it's going to start to travel down your roof. Once it gets past the warm wall, okay, this exterior wall, it will refreeze. Why? Because there's no heat any longer warming up that roof deck. And what's going to happen is once that refreezes in the area that's outside, it's going to start to back up other water that is also traveling down your roof. When this happens, water starts to get up underneath the shingles, and as it starts to melt, it will then come in contact with the underlayment or the actual roof deck plywood that you have, and over time this will start to rot the plywood. So the solution to that was the creation of Ice and Water Shield. Typically it's a 36-inch wide membrane. It comes in a big roll. Usually it can cover about 200 square feet. Okay, so basically about 66 lineal feet long. Once it's unrolled, and the release film basically is pulled off the back of it. It's installed down at the plywood, and it's a barrier that'll help prevent against ice damming. Now, a couple things. One is a good roofing contractor certainly will install it. You want to make sure that is very visible on your estimate. They will install where code is required. Again, the eaves and your valleys. However, it is advised, and certainly something to be considered, and probably most roofers, if you ask them, they answer the question honestly, what they would do on their own home, is not only would they install it on the eaves or in the valleys, but they would install it in two other places. And number one would be probably on the rakes, which are the side edges. Again, if you look at a profile view of your home, from the gutter line to the ridge, that is a rake. So they would install it on the sides there. But additionally, they would also install it in areas where there's protrusions in the roof. And if you went out probably in your backyard and looked up at your roof, you'll see a lot of these protrusions. There's pipes sticking out. Sometimes there's attic fans. You have chimney stacks or your skylights. These are all protrusions in the roof deck. These are all areas where leaks will more commonly occur, right? It's common sense to think about it. So what we want to do is take this ice and water shield and we'll apply it around those areas. Why? Well, just good practice. If you're going to have an issue, having ice and water shield underneath the shingles can protect the roof deck, can actually extend the life of your roof. And honestly, for years, it could have been occurring and you're not even knowing if you have ice and water shield on there, and it really not affecting the roof at all. So it's definitely something to consider. Last point I want to make about ice and water shield. The major manufacturers, as you know, we are GAF Master Elite contractors and we are Owens Corning Preferred, while there certainly is others. The major manufacturers all make ice and water shield. However, it's important to know that there's actually different grades of ice and water shield, and they all have different prices. Now, on most homes, most residential homes, you can get away with probably using the lowest grade ice and water shield on a house. However, if you're considering doing metal roofing or cedar, you probably want to consider an upgraded ice and water shield. And the reason for that is the actual product itself. If you look at the chemical makeup or the composition makeup, they use a lot of different materials in making it a better product, whether it's rubber or asphalt, thickness, and additionally, probably the most important is heat tolerance, right? So underneath a roofing surface, you can imagine it's very, very hot, right? If you went up to your roof in the summertime, I can guarantee you, I've done it numerous times, you stick your hand on that shingle and it'll burn you. And so you can imagine underneath a metal roof or even asphalt in certain areas where sun's exposing all the time, using a ice and water shield that has a greater heat tolerance can benefit you. It'll stand up better. And not only that, it'll actually survive. And what I mean by that is actually the ice and water shield, in theory, melts, right? So it'll heat up and it'll stick to the plywood, but it can actually heat up so much that it almost becomes like a liquid tar. And if using the wrong ice and water shield in certain locations between plank boards or things like that, you can actually start to see black drips of tar in your attic space, believe it or not. So again, on most homes, the lowest grade ice and water shield manufactured by GAF or Owens Corning will be satisfactory on your home. But also keep in mind there actually is generic manufacturers of that product too that are a little less expensive. So as long as it's not impacting your warranty, that's certainly an option to consider. But again, mandated by code, has to go into your eaves, has to go into the valleys. If you want to kind of make your roof a little bit better than the norm, ask for it to be put around the protrusions and consider getting put along the rake edges.